Hey everyone, Rex here with a new video. No, it's not an animation, I'm afraid. I'm still applying those. I got a lot of ideas and not a lot of time to do them. ADHD is fun, isn't it? Anyway, here I am making a model of gloomtail from Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. I wasn't supposed to make this model, but I decided, what the heck, I'm going to do it. It's going to be simple. The original idea was I was going to connect the vertices of his cutout pieces and make up his body together, turn from a paper cutout, or what's that word? I haven't thought in a long time. Papercraft, that's it. A papercraft dragging into a full 3D one. But it turns out it wasn't that simple. See, his body's made of a bunch of rectangle planes and not cutouts. What looks like cutouts are actually textures and transparencies to get the illusion that he's made of cut up pieces of paper. And since the connecting the rectangles together was not gonna get me the result I want, I had to do this the old-fashioned way. So I took two screenshots of him, one from the front, from the side, and imported them to Blender and started making them all the old-fashioned way. I had just started ahead when I said, this might be an interesting video to put on YouTube to show people the process of how I make models. Unfortunately, this whole thing was well over 4 hours long with edited out bits. As in, I edited out my pauses, some mistakes, my saving, and it was still over 4 hours, so I had to speed the footage up by 8 by 2. Now, I hope you don't mind if I keep talking during this, just to fill empty air. So yeah, here I'm having trouble with the eye shape. The front of gloomtail looks like it needs to be one way with the eyes, but the other side makes it look like the other. I was trying to get that nice angry perma expression on his eyes, but couldn't quite get the socket to work, so I had to fiddle with it a bit. I suppose I could have gone with using a lattice modifier on the eye to make it any shape I want to fit that sort of, angry cartoon dragon shape, but I wanted to try to go without that in case I want to give this to a friend like Hadu who uses MMD, or have it go into like viewer chat someday. Basically, I'm trying to future-proof my model here. Again, I was amazed at how well this was going, considering that I wasn't playing this, I didn't have a proper T-post reference. This was really off the cuff. In nose shape, I decided to just pull out of his snout, just, to make the nostril shape. But then I realized when I was making it that, you'll see in a minute what I mean. Here I am again trying to make the eye socket work, and it being a bright jerk. I mean, seriously, I had to fill that eye shape so much just to try to get it to be the way I want it. Now, I made the eye temporarily red so I can distinguish it from the base mesh of the head. And I really think that helped. Now the nose, I decided to make it so the nostril goes a bit deeper into it instead of just being like a texture, like a short cone. To give the illusion that there's a nasal passage in there. And I think it really helped. Unfortunately, I also realized that I had the nose angled a bit too backwards to the side. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some dragons that do that, but I wanted to try and make it face more forwardish. Like, if you could sniff you could see him sniffing you know what I mean? Now, why did I pick gloomtail over hooktail over bonetail? Well, one, bonetails would be right annoying to do because he's a skeleton. I've never modeled a skeleton in my life. As for hooktail, to be honest, if I felt like it, I could interchange gloom and hooktail's textures and make one into the other. I mean, they literally are twins, right? Brother and sister. But mostly it was the tail itself. See, I loved Hooktail's design for a very long time in the games, but it's the tail that always bugged me. It looks silly. I'm sorry, it just does. Right here, I'm prepping for what I call a dirty rig, where I test the mesh so far, see if I like how it moves. This isn't the permanent rig, just a test rig, and as you can see, the mouth is working pretty much the way I want it to. He can frown, he can smile. I added one more edge loop just to make sure he had better flexibility in the face. And now that I know that I like it, I'm just the shape of him just a little bit, just to make it fit closer to the reference, with the mouth shape, though I'm going to have to later tweak it a bit more so that tooth will fit properly. I certainly have come a long way since I made that Mr. Patch mall all those years ago. Though I still have a long way to go, because even now I can tell I'm making a few concessions. Here I am adjusting the nose so it's facing more forward and less backward. And in order to do that, I had to delete the interior nostril and remake it. Sometimes these sacrifices must be made in order for good results. For what going for now, I'm making inner mouth. To do this, I make it red and blue so I can see it easier against the white of the mesh, face mesh. I also make it separately, like its own mesh, from the head to start with, so I don't mess up the mouth shape while I'm making it. And it went pretty well, but as you can see, I often have to adjust the shape of the inner mouth and the jaw in order for them both to fit nicely. I'll probably have to readjust this again once I add the teeth, just for that snaggletooth on the side of his jaw. And I did another test and it went pretty well. Though now I'm noticing, well, yeah, I kind of forgot a step I just noticed. I forgot to do the end of the throat. Oops, I'll do that later. Now I'm working on starting the body, starting the neck. Now when I model characters, I follow a book I got for Christmas many years ago for modeling Blender 2.79. It's like my bread and butter, my go-to. Though oftentimes I can, go off script with it if need be, mostly in faces. Like with here, I had to stop following the book right when it talked about how to make the mouth, because Gloomtail's mouth is bigger than the one in the book, and well, I had just to make it up as I went. But with the torso, I'm following the book basically to the letter. And I decided to make Gloomtail a bit more anthro than he is actually in the reference. One of the ways I did that was making his head smaller by enlarging the reference before I started making his body. I really think he looks better with a smaller head. It makes him look less baby, I think, or at least a bit more intimidating. As for making the arms, that went by pretty easy. I don't see him as being a particularly muscular dragon, so I don't have to worry, well, not yet at least, worry about any normal maps to enhance his muscles. I've only once made a muscle normal map recently, and that was for, well, I'll show you in the showcase later. Now, I've always found that elbows are a little funky on arms. I mean, they always seem a little off when I model. Not sure why. I decided to also model in the semi-pec here, just to give him a bit more musculature. What can I say? I like pecs. Now, I haven't yet modeled the spikes, the wings, his teeth, his eyelids, his tongue, his horn things yet. Those are coming later after I finish doing commentary for this and the uploading. Now I'm on to the torso, which I decided to break convention from my Blender book and start doing it freehand. Since his legs aren't, quite anthro in the sense that they're humanoid. I mean, they're on the sides of his body more so than directly under his pelvis. Well, you know what I mean. Human would have their legs like from their center about, I'm saying an acute angle, while it's more obtuse, a wider acute angle from the center to pelvis for, well, this guy. As to make his underbelly rounder and proper shape, I used a sphere with a color texture so I could see it better, and a grease pencil to draw over the sphere with line to object and turn faces from lines in order to get that nice underbelly roundness. Then it was just a matter of figuring out how the legs connected to the underbelly and the torso. This is me just quickly checking the models to show someone how it was going compared to the original. Now, here I'm working on connecting the legs and torso legs and pelvis to the body and the neck to the head. Surprised when the neck connected quite nicely to the head, which doesn't always happen when I'm following my book. As for this, it's not uncommon for there being too many lines on the torso and the legs that I have to fiddle with the geometry to make sure it lines up enough to connect nicely. Now I'm going to make another dirty rig to test the model, see if I can make it pose like the reference image. I've deleted my first one just so I can keep things clean. Sometimes funny things happen if you don't do that. Here I find out the back legs are a little too short, but the neck is good, the head's great. I just need to fix this little funkiness at the base of the neck. The mouth works nicely enough. And here I am just checking the angles to see if everything looks right. And that was the end of day 1. Day 2 is starting any minute now. Right about here. This is day 2. Here I'm testing his bendability and his growability. See how the bones stretch, how he tilts his torso, so on and so forth. And once I was happy with that, it was time to work on the feet. My first attempt didn't go well, so I had to cut that out and start over. To start over, I focused on his feet and their reference image of that and start building from that. Again, I'm following my book for a bit, just enough to do the base of the foot. The toes I have to do sort of freehand and figure out how to do it on my own, which went surprisingly well. But the feet, I'm still not quite sure if I got the right shape for. I mean, you think it'd be easy, given how they look at a glance, but it's surprisingly not. But again, it could have been just because my references weren't always the same scale. The toes, though, went by pretty easily. I just took one of the planes that had the toe texture on it and just molded the toe to it. And it was really great until I realized, oops, my reference image is at an angle. So I had to fix that, stretch the foot back out, toe out to be the proper length. But in the end, it looked like really good. This is about where I realized, oops, I'm kind of with the length of the toe, because, I have my reference image at an angle. See, they're fixed now. Just we'll adjust here, we'll adjust there. And now it's on to duplicating the toe to becoming 3 toes. Like so, and then connecting them at their bases, like that. Once they're all connected together, I can connect it to the base of the foot itself, though the geometry here is a little funky. Yes, I know it's a bit hard to see right now, but I don't feel like slowing it down because the video is already 18 minutes long. I don't think you want it any longer. Here I'm adding some extra geometry and lines just so I can connect the feet a bit easier, though I still have a few shameful triangles. Once the foot was done, I decided to see if I could replicate the front end of it and use it as a forepaw, aka or hands. But before I did that, I decided to connect the ankle to the leg, and once I connected that, I adjusted the leg so I can move the top knee down just a little bit more so the legs were a bit bigger up top, which again I said was something I felt was a little off the model. Here I'm readjusting the shape of the underbelly because it got a little warped. I had to bring in a previous saves version of him just to realign all of his messed up vertices that got yanked when I was readjusting the shape of the leg. Thankfully that was a quick and easy fix. We'll narrowing the ankle, adjusting the positioning, and now I'm adding the dirty leg to the rig, which is going to be more of the permanent rig, to the toes to test how his feet work, to see if they bend the way I want them to. And a little more detail, adjusting the bottom of the foot to make sure it's a bit more flat. And once doing that, I did some test posing. Again, posing him into the position he would be in the reference image. Legs were a bit long here, but just a little readjust of the posture fixed that. I realized the arms are a little funky. I think I fixed them since here I'm checking the bendability of the toes, which are very grabby. And now I'm trying to make a hand. This is not at all how you're supposed to do hands according to my book, but I decided to try to experiment to see if it will work. First, I copied the middle finger because it was at least altered and moved it to where the thumb would be. And then I started trying to connect the side of the foot to where the thumb would attach. And it surprisingly went really well, as you can see here. But I also realized I had the thumb at a bit of a funky angle, but I'll fix that in a bit. First, you have to tilt up because apparently that's how it should be. And I adjusted the shape of the bottom of the former foot to be more of a palm shape. And it worked surprisingly well, as I said. Every bit of this mall has been going surprisingly well. Now I'm just got connected to the arm, and of course, the vertices don't quite line up, so I have to fiddle with it. Either adjust the position on the wrist or adjust the position on the hand, or add more geometry. Just connect it properly. Thankfully, once connected, it looked pretty good. But I realized that I might have messed up the thumb's position. So I started to try to adjust it. First I made the thumb's tip longer, then I readjusted the angle, making it more to the side. I mean, look at your hand. Your thumb is more side facing than your fingers. Where your fingers point down, your thumb points out. Once fixing that, I tried to adjust the size of the thumb, but I wasn't happy with how that was going, so I decided to do that with the bones instead later. So I went to finish rigging up the hand, naming the bones, putting the bones in place, adjusting the palm as needed as I was going. And once that was done, I started adding extra bones, like the shoulder bone, the bicep, the tricep. Just bones that I can use to adjust the shape of things later on. And I started giving things their actual names. Just because the dirty rig has now become the permanent rig that I can actually build off of later. Once that was done, I symmetrized the rig, re-rigged it with the auto rig, and then posed him back into his, the pose he's supposed to be in game. And I noticed a few issues, but I was able to fix them right quick. This part. This is me putting on the bone modifier, follow rotation for the shoulder bones, and then follow with the upper arm bones. And here I am resizing the bones, scaling for the thumbs, so they would be more of a normal size. And now for the tail. I decided that I'd go for a more traditional looking tail for gloomtail here because, well, again, I thought the streamer was silly. So here I am, adjusting it, and it went really well. I think at the end of the tail I put a few streamer bits just to reference the original tail, but in the end, I always thought the tail on gloomtail, on hooktail, on any of them just looks silly. I mean, aren't they supposed to be kites or something? I mean, I know it's called gloomtail and hooktail, but it's kind of funny that they have more than one tail, don't you think? I mean, check out, there's 3 streamers where the tail should be. Well, once that was done, I close off the tip of the tail, rig the tail up, name their bones, and make sure they're all in the right place. Did another test rig and pose it, and there you are.